Hello and welcome to this bonus YouTube exclusive mini episode of Political Frenemies. I'm Chris Newton. I'm an academic and a former Tory defence advisor, and with me is Mathew Hulbert, Lib Dem activist and former councillor. And we don't usually do this, but what we thought we'd do today is the vote of the government's welfare legislation, or at least the second reading of that legislation, and it's a major milestone. It's a major vote for the government, and there are a lot of implications stemming from that. So, Mathew, if you'd like to fill us in on sort of what happened today and what the result of the votes were.
Great to be with you, Chris, for this, what you might call an emergency episode, a brief YouTube exclusive after what has been quite a considerable day for the government and for British politics more widely. So just to give you the results, I'm sure that our folks who will be tuning into this will have seen it and heard it, but I think it's worth repeating. So the vote on the bill, there was a vote on the amendment first, which was heavily defeated. And then the actual vote on the bill at second reading was yes. So that's the government vote, 335. No, and that's the opposition vote at 260. A majority of 75 for the government. So easily passed, and we can talk about that. But I believe that means that there was 44 Labour rebels. So no danger of the government losing the vote, and we can talk about why that was the case in just a second, Chris. But nonetheless, 44 Labour rebels, so not inconsiderable. And I think any fair assessment, Chris, of what has happened today would say, I think even the most loyal person to this government would say it's not been a good day for them. That's an understatement. And I would say that Keir Starmer ends the day, yes, having won the vote, but even weaker, if that were possible, than he started the day today, Chris.
No, I would agree with that. And we have to underscore the fact that this vote has only probably got through because, I mean, Starmer already made concessions prior to the vote, which we discussed in our sort of last episode. But what the government effectively did sort of about an hour or so before the vote happened was basically to say all of the changes that they were planning to make with regards to personal independence payments and the changes in eligibility and so forth. They're basically saying, right, we're going to ditch that and we're going to get the minister responsible, Stephen Timms, to review that aspect of the bill. So they're basically torn up the key part of their policy, and they've torn up a key part of their policy which was designed to save money to get the books under control. So Labour's economic policy is pretty much in tatters. Labour's credibility on the economy, I would say, is in tatters. And I think Keir Starmer's authority, the fact that he's got 160 odd majority and he can't get his the original form of his legislation through without, major concessions and without effectively sort of tearing up the policy, he has no authority anymore, doesn't he?
Well, it's interesting, Chris, that obviously me and you come at this from different positions. So, I mean, I guess in a sense you would have wanted the reforms in the original state that they were in to go through and possibly to go further. Indeed, I know you're not here as an official Conservative representative, Chris, but obviously the Tories put forward to say that they would support this bill if Labour agreed to various things that in truth they knew that Labour would never be able to agree to. So in the end, the Tories ended up opposing this bill. I oppose it because I think it went far too far, and I agree with the Labour rebels and indeed with my own party, the Lib Dems, who uniformly voted against this bill at second reading tonight. My view that it was pretty darn disgraceful. No one disagrees, I don't think, perhaps except the very hard left, that there needs to be welfare reform, that people need to be helped back into work, not coerced, not forced, but helped. I believe we should have, call me a liberal old lefty, Chris, as I know you will, but I believe we should have a compassionate welfare system. But I agree with you. We both end up at the same place, despite coming at it from different positions. That this has been shambolic today. And as Ian Labour, the Labour MP, in quite a stunning contribution, I felt, to the debate, quite rightly said that he'd never seen anything like it. That changes were being made to the bill, although I'll get to the fact in a second that actually no actual changes could be made to the bill. So we'll get to that in just a second, because what was on the face of the bill was what was actually being voted for. It'll have to be changed subsequently to tonight. But the concessions were being made by the Minister, Stephen Timms, in an intervention to a speech from a Labour backbencher. I mean, a ridiculous way to do government.
And another ridiculous way to do government is that they're now in the situation where they're reviewing conducting this review after the legislation's been published. And usually what you would do is conduct the review first and then publish the legislation. As you say, it's utterly shambolic. It's really embarrassing. It's an utter mess. That's what it is. It's an utter shambolic mess. And I think this is ultimately the result, and we've seen Starmer not performing well throughout the whole year, and in the next episode we'll discuss this in more detail. But it's ultimately, I think, a consequence of Starmer not being properly tested in opposition. He was U-turning all over the place in opposition, but the media didn't really pick up on it. But in government, you can't, eventually you get found out. And well, we're well past the point where Starmer's got found out, but the government just seems to get worse and worse with every decision that they make, and we've got 4 more years of this. God, I don't know if I can take it.
Great for political podcasts, though, Chris. Great for political podcast. But yeah, I mean, I agree, and I don't think you ever expected much from this government. I did expect quite a lot didn't expect to agree with them on everything. Of course, I'm a Lib Dem. They're a Labour government.
Are supposed to be the grown-ups?
Well, I said that. I hope that the grown-ups were now in charge, and I just don't think it's turned out to be the case. But getting back to tonight, I mean, I've just watched an interview with Liz Kendall with the BBC's Chris Mason, and he repeatedly put to her, I think quite rightly, absolutely validly, is your position not now untenable? Now, she denied that, but how on earth can she stay in her position after tonight? Her legislation's been torn up.
Yeah, but again, in politics these days, and especially with these Labour ministers, they have no shame. So they can quite easily. We've seen it time and time again with Starmer, so saying one thing 1 minute and then saying the complete opposite thing the next minute. And again, if I was one of the backbenchers who spent the last few months defending the policy and being a good boy or girl and doing as they're told and defending the policy on the Today programme or on the TV, I'd be extremely annoyed now. And it seems to be a pattern, doesn't it? He seems to be doing this all the time. Again, as was mentioned today, they seem to constantly march their backbenchers to the top of the hill and march them back down again. And it's just utterly shambolic. And again, I don't know how long this can continue before Labour MPs seriously say there needs to be a radical change in leadership.
And what is left now in the bill? I mean, as I say, they've got this weird thing now, Chris, that because changes were being made in interventions from the dispatch box, obviously those changes are not yet, at least, on the face of the bill. So Labour MPs have taken a lot on trust, and they clearly hope that they can trust their colleagues, members of the government. And I think, I don't know if you've thought this, Chris, but that actually, I think. Whereas I think Liz Kendall, and I mean politically, I don't know her personally, she may well be a very nice lady, but I mean politically, whereas I think there's not much particular trust or faith in her from what I can tell. I think the government were putting a lot on the shoulders of Stephen Timms, who I think is fairly widely liked and respected, especially on these matters. And his review really has to deliver now, doesn't it? Because we could still see, and one Labour MP said this, I reserve the right to vote against at third reading. It could still fall, whatever's left of this legislation.
Yeah, there's that. And then there's the additional question of the wider economic picture as well, and the
Yeah.
wider fiscal policy.
Yes. Where does this
Leave?
leave Rachel Reeves?
Yeah, again, another person that really should be, whose position should be sort of seriously under threat. It
Right.
was at one point, but that was subsided. But now, where I mean, where does this leave? Their tax and cuts policy, and there's already sort of speculation. Well, there's obviously going to be tax rises in the budget now. Well, this will just reinforce that. There's a potential announcement on ISAs being made. So again, the big fears last year about what a Labour budget would look like, it was put off sort of last year, and it looks like the attacks on sort of, savers and the tax rises, that looks like that's going to come this year instead. So again, it's a total mess. Just one thing, just one other observation I'd like to make with regards to what happened today was Kemi Badenoch's response. And Kemi Badenoch unusually is responded to this to this debate, because usually it's the relevant shadow Secretary of State. But Kemi Badenoch has been doing a lot herself at the moment in terms of responding to government ministers
To help raise her profile.
To help raise her profile, which I think is really the only thing she can really do. But I thought her speech today was pretty good, actually. I thought it was passionate. I thought it was fiery. She's coming out in her own a little more now. I think her delivery's getting better. She probably still has some way to go, but I think the speech today represented, at least in terms of delivery, and improvement. I agree with what she said as well. But
Not much. Can I just say though, Chris? Can I just interject to say that, I know you're commenting on style and presentation, and that's important for an opposition leader, and we've talked about that in the past. But I mean, I didn't notice much concern for people who are going to be hurt by this legislation. And isn't the truth that it's because really the Tories would like to go much further than Labour wanted to go? I mean, I don't think there's much Tory care and concern for the least well-off in society, Chris. They've not changed in that respect.
I'm just thinking about the speech. I think you do need to balance it with an acknowledgement that obviously, and I think she, and I think obviously you need to look to the to the most vulnerable and make sure they're protected. And actually, I would point you. I don't know if you saw this, but I would point you in the direction of John Glenn's speech. John Glenn is actually an old friend of mine, actually responsible for hiring me to the Tories. But I'm not just saying that because he's an old friend. I thought John Glenn's speech actually was good in terms of getting the balance right between showing compassionate to the most vulnerable, but also acknowledging that the finances are a mess. Yes, people sort of cheat the system, and there are problems with how benefits are determined and so forth. But I thought he struck a really good balance, and I think you make a fair criticism there that Badenoch does need to show that side as well. That there's that kind of concern for, yes, it's a safety net, but there has to be sort of concern for the most vulnerable as well. But that doesn't deny the fact that the public finances are under severe pressure and something needs to be done. And as welfare is one of the biggest budgets out there, then of course that needs to be looked at.
So very finally, Chris, because we are going to wrap up very shortly. This was just a brief little reaction video from us tonight. The bill got through. I mean, it's ridiculous saying that, because what was left of the bill, but whatever was left of the bill got through. We're not here talking about Starmer having been defeated, which would have been a really massive story, but still, it's been a shambles. And so they might be breathing a sigh of relief in Downing Street, but they've no right to be feeling cocky tonight, have they? It's been disastrous.
I think the only way to describe it is Starmer yet again limping on,
Right.
and okay, it is not fatal for him, but it's not a good position if you're just limping on and waiting for the next disaster. So yes, Starmer got through this one, but I think he's using at least 7 of his 9 lives now. So
Yeah. Yeah, he has more fewer lives left. I would have thought than good old lovely Larry the Downing Street cat.
oh god,
I would have thought, who was almost run over the other week. So there you
yeah.
go. That says it all. Now, Chris, very exciting. If people haven't seen on our Twitter over the past couple of days, we're very excited that we've got a new addition to the team. He'll be joining us occasionally. He's a very busy man, so it won't be every week, but joining us occasionally will be a Labour voice. This will be something novel for us, won't it? So this is Chris Carter, who is a Labour commentator, writes for Labour List, appears on the BBC quite a lot, certainly on BBC Wales. But he's a really good guy. Is prepared to criticise his party when it's warranted, but he's also prepared to stand up for it. And he'll have quite a tough job at the end of this week, trying to defend Labour. But we're excited to have him aboard, aren't we?
Yeah, and I think you especially. I mean, I don't really care, but you especially have felt the need that there has to be a bit of sort
Don't
of
say that
balance.
when he arrives.
No. You need to let me finish the
Sorry.
the sentence. I don't care about sort of providing balance for Labour and defending balance, but you do. But because we're not regulated by Ofcom yet. But I think I would agree that I think adding a Labour voice would actually make things. It's something that we need, actually, given that it's Labour that is making all of the big decisions. And yes, I think we would really benefit the podcast to get someone to, yes, defend Labour and their decisions, but we also respect independence, and we like independence on this channel as well. So it'd be good to meet Chris and another Chris on the show. And
Another good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to me and him teaming up against you, Chris. So
that's it. This is the real reason why you're doing it, isn't it? I was leveling sort of devastating firepower against you, which you couldn't take, and you need backup. So
quite right, absolutely. And we'll have, and if you're not following us on Twitter or X or whatever you call it, do follow us on there, because that's when we make our announcements first. So you can find us at Pol Frenemies, POL, and then Frenemies. So do follow us on Twitter, because we'll have some other exciting news coming. So much exciting news from us, Chris. Almost too much to say.
Yeah, and we're definitely well into the next phase of our development as a podcast.
Yeah.
We've had big guests, but we also we would like to have a range of guests as well. So big, obviously we've had big names like Ian Down, Peter Cardwell, but there's some really good up and coming talent out there as well, which I think our viewers and listeners would be interested in hearing from.
Absolutely. Well, this has just been a little taster. And don't forget to join us for our main show proper, which will be out on Friday evening. That will be on YouTube and on the podcast platforms. And that'll be with the two Chris's, our regular Chris, of course, Mr. Newton, and Chris Carter from Labour List as well. So looking forward to that, Chris.
Yeah, really looking forward to it, and yeah, it's great to get another dynamic into the show, and yeah, it should be a very interesting one, given that we are going to review review Labour's first year in office. So I reckon it will be a really good one.
Lovely.
Okay, right. So, do we'll be putting out shorts as always and other clips on Twitter. Do look out for those. But until then, we will see you on Friday. And so, goodbye for now.
Bye.